I'm so excited to welcome you all today for our 7th cohort of fellows. That's with SAI. That's just crazy to say and think about all at once. And to hear about their pitches about the work that they've all been doing today. Before we begin, I would like to kick us all off. My name is Claire Kozlowski. I'm the Assistant Director of Operations at SAI. And I'd like for us to take a moment and acknowledge that we live, work, and learn on the traditional lands of many Indigenous tribes tribes of Indigenous people across North America. And we acknowledge that the past, present, and future human impact on communities have on the Indigenous way of life in the land that we inhabit. We'd like to honor with gratitude the land itself as a living entity that supports countless interconnected beings and the ongoing connections of Indigenous peoples to these waters, lands, plants, and animals. As we continue to gather virtually from across the country and hear about all this fantastic work that's happening in the STEM inclusion sector, we really at SAI would like to encourage you to learn more about Indigenous people who have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you inhabit, and continue to find different ways to honor and cultivate meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples, non-human animals, and the land and water itself. We'd really like to make an effort and encourage everybody to do more. And so please consider either donating time, money, charity to an activist group, frequenting Indigenous-owned businesses, and contacting your elected representatiors about ways that we can continue to push forth for a well-organized community. And with that, I'd really like to, again, today is a day about celebration and honoring all this fantastic achievement that the fellows have conducted over the past 10 weeks. And so I'm going to actually turn things over to the person that has been with them the longest and the most, their fellow Manuel.
Thank you, Claire. Wonderful to see you all. I'm so excited to get here. It's always exciting when the new fellows are pitching their programs. My name is Manuel. I'm the founder and chief resident here at SAI. I want to take a couple of minutes, tell you a little bit about us, and then get this show going. So let me just share my screen. So again, welcome. So it's really hard to do this work, building an informal science learning initiative. It's really, really hard, and a lot of challenges that one faces: mentorship, funding, collaboration.
We've got some feedback going on.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Let me see here. Not sure where the feedback is from.
I think the live stream is probably playing in your background.
Yeah, I would make sure you disable your live stream from your end. I'm not hearing it. Bree, are you hearing it?
I think you're good. You sound fine to me.
Yeah, okay. I'm not hearing anything. Might be you.
Oh, it's
okay, great.
Sorry.
So it's really hard. And so at SAI, what we try and do is enable researchers and practitioners to build these high impact informal science engagement programs that connect people to science by providing community, funding is very important, mentorship, and professional resources to 3 initiatives via our internship program, our fellows program, which I'll tell you about, and our residency, which I'm really excited to see flourish and grow. I encourage you to visit our website to learn more about all the stuff that we're doing and really building together over the past several years. The fellows program is special, 10 to 12 weeks. They get one-on-one mentorship, peer mentorship, seed funding, of course, and a network that through our residents, broader residents, that we try and connect them with. Of course, give them access to a broader array of expertise as well, evaluation, funding, and so forth over that span of time. So it's very short, actually. It goes by really, really quickly. And as the fellows can attest, it's not enough time. It is not enough time. I can see Brittania already laughing. Exactly. It's never enough time. We go through a lot of stuff in here, funding, evaluation, and I mean, it's exciting. We are in the trenches. So I've been in the trenches with them day in, week out, hearing all their challenges and so forth. So it's exciting to just go through all of that and get here to this day today. And it's been a wonderful, I think, very humbling experience to have seen all these initiatives launch. And this is just a subset. Go to our website to see the full scale. They are coming in with really crazy ideas, and we just help them get to the stage where they can launch, and most importantly, launch and sustain the drive to get out there and do this really important work. Hopefully they get follow-on funding, which is something that we really push and support all our fellows. The C7 fellows, special mention to you all. It's been an honor to have been your host, your MC for the past 10 to 11 weeks. Emily, Kayleen, Ryan, Tannia, Brittania, Sqiniseko. Thank you so much for taking a chance with us. I really mean that. You guys could have gone elsewhere and said yes to, but you said yes to us. And so I really thankful for that. Scan that QR code for those of you who are watching online on the Zoom room to really learn about the fellows and who they are. You can click on their profile online. Huge thanks to our fellows, our mentors, C7 mentors, Jonathan, Gorlavleen, Jasmine, Rose, and our at-large mentor, Jessica, for just being, again, true supporters of the program and mentoring and being there with them, the fellows, day in and day out over the past 10 to 11 weeks. Thanks to staff and the broader residents. Huge welcome to Ariana and Corey, to the team. Again, we are building SAI one brick at a time as we continue to grow. And so I'm so excited to see the interest from the broader community that are coming in to support the residents, the fellows, and the interns. Of course, none of this would be possible without funders, past and present. BWF, thank you. And our current sponsors, the Science Sandbox from the Simons Foundation, thank you for supporting Cohort 6 and 7. Really, we've not been able to do this work without your support. And I just love the community there. And I look forward to continuing to be part of that community in the years to come. STEM peers as well, thank you for broader support over time. So today, this is the big thing. What are we going to do today? 5 to 7 minute pitches, okay? I will be the timekeeper. The fellows know this very well. And then we'll be followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. You can drop your questions in the chat, whether you're on Zoom or YouTube, just drop them in there. When we get to that stage, or if you're in here, raise a hand as well in the Zoom. I will get to you and answer and let you ask your question. If we run out of time, please send a direct message to the fellows directly, and you guys can have a little chat offline as well, okay? Please take a look at the scan here. We would love to get your feedback. Don't forget this link. I will drop it also in the chat throughout the event. We'd love to get your feedback. I really would appreciate that. And so with that, here's our order. Taking us off will be Brittania, and then after each speaker, we'll have the Q&A as I mentioned, and then I'll say the name of the next fellow. They'll introduce themselves, so that way we can keep moving along. It will go by pretty quickly, and I do have a special announcement at the end, so if you do stick it out till the end, you will get to know what that is, okay? So I will stop there and welcome our first presenter, Brittania, and she had the honor of being mentored by me. So Brittania, take us off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manuel, and thank you to the STEM Advocacy Institute for having me here today. My name is Brittania Moodie, and I'm just super excited for you to hear about our projects and the projects of other mentors, other fellows. My name is Brittania Moodie, and I believe that with the right skills and tools, you're really able to live a full life. My purpose in life is to use my creativity and ability to create community to provide opportunities for underserved youth. I'm currently a research technician at the Whitehead Institute, and I am stationed in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, I want you to imagine if you had to make an important life decision, such as going to college, but without mentorship, lack of experiential learning opportunities, and little to no resources. Well, that is actually the reality of many primary school students currently in Jamaica. This is exactly why I co-founded the Caribbean Youth Development Institute, and we really care about providing students from low-income, low-resource communities with mentorships, live workshops, and resources so that they too are able to become global leaders and thinkers of tomorrow. CYD Institute has allowed me to blend my passion of STEM and community outreach, and it's been such a wonderful experience. Today, I am super excited to talk to you about our new project, CYD Institute #Project Navigate, Thank you again to the SAI community for helping me to put this project together. Now, the transition to high school represents a particularly critical time in the Jamaican educational system, with important choices that actually helps to shape the students' future possibilities. Now, many times the students are often expected to navigate school and their lives independently without access to any resources or proper mentorship support. And from our conversations with teachers and parents and students, this has been a constant struggle and leave the students very anxious and overwhelmed. Our solution is to create a novel framework that provides and builds a supportive and collaborative community that engages the students through storytelling and equip them with 21st century skills that are critical for navigating their transition to high school and beyond. Now, there are many programs that currently help students in Jamaica and support them from our target audience. However, their focus seems to be primarily on helping them to prepare for their external exams, which is also super important, or teaching them a skill. But this sometimes adds to the pressure and anxiety that these students have and leave them with more unanswered questions as they navigate their way towards success and figuring out what that really means. What we are trying to do with Project Navigate is to take the students beyond the scope of the classroom. CYD Institute's hashtag Project Navigate is an 8-week program where the students will meet with us twice a week at the end of their primary school career. During the summer, we will take the students and teach them how to navigate academics, yes, but also failure, the power of being themselves, and developing a success mindset. We'll also be assessing what exactly are the skills that the students are using as they transition particularly within their first year of high school. We'll help them to build a student portfolio and assess their increased confidence by their willingness to participate in new activities and seek mentorship where needed. How will we make this engaging and fun and exciting for students at that age, as well as make it something that's easy for them to remember and use? We will be using story circles and simulated scenarios to help the students have a realistic expectations of what are some of the challenges that they may face. We will mix this with mentorship and create a safe and collaborative environment for these students to actually practice and learn these 21st century skills. We will invite community partners and leaders so that the students are reaching out to individuals who can connect with their stories and connect with their realities. We'll use pre and post surveys and interviews to help to assess how the student is progressing and whether or not the skills that we are teaching them are useful for these students. In order to bring this entire project together, so far, within the past 6 weeks, we've actually submitted a grant application and partnered with 3 partner schools in Kingston and St. Andrew with individuals from our target audience. We also have a functional website that provides resources, workshops, and all our stories and videos will be hosted there. We've also done 24 test sessions over the year of 1 year and 6 months. And this really helped us to understand what the students really need, what will make the program successful, and understand how exactly we are going to give the students the skills that they need. None of this would have been possible without an amazing team, and my co-founder, Sashoy Milton, is actually here in the audience with us today. Now, every project needs good funding, and so our plan is to use grants and donations and possibly sponsorship to fund the Institute as we work to transform the lives of youths and help them to go beyond the scope of the classroom. Now, it's important to note that though we will begin Project Navigate in Jamaica, we already have plans in place to ensure that we can expand our work to support immigrant youth here in the United States. We will be supporting them at another critical transition point, that is from their high school to college career. And so we have partnered with En-Route, a local organization here in Cambridge, and we will be helping to help students navigate STEM and how they transition that period. If you're ever interested in hearing more or collaborating, funding us, please feel free to reach out. We are on all social media platforms, and we're always happy to talk and answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Brittania Moodie, co-founder of Caribbean Youth Development Institute, and it's been a pleasure talking today. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Getting a lot of claps. If you can leave your contact slide up, Brittania, that'll be great for people to just have that in mind. Okay, the floor is open, guys, and don't go easy. Please throw away your hard questions at them, okay? They are ready. I hope at least they are. Okay, so we have a comment. Niba, do you want to ask your question? I wasn't sure. Niba, if you're there, if you're able to ask the question, can you go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I was just wondering if you had metrics on the number of students. I saw your metrics about like test cases and stuff like that, but I think that's a really critical number as well.
Yes, on the number of students who have been impacted so far, Niba?
Yeah.
Yeah, so far we've actually worked with over 100 students, and we've done those workshops within each cohort, about 30 students, 10 to 30 students, depending on the cohort or the workshop that we're doing, who are actually engaging with us. And another important point is that many of them are repeating students, so they find the sessions helpful, and so they are actually coming back for any workshops that we actually have to keep them engaged in those activities.
Gotcha. That's actually really helpful to know. And I think maybe writing down like the number of recurring students you have, like people who return for this kind of thing, can be really critical because it shows that like they found that it was relevant. There's a, sorry, do I have time for another question? So, I don't know, is it okay if I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Because part of the reason I say that is because there's a lot of programs that do exactly what your program does. And so it'll be really important to kind of like distinguish yourself and kind of show the metric of like people are finding this useful or they've rated it useful, something to kind of be more than just like, you know, this is a service that a lot of different organizations provide. What is it that makes you unique?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Niba.
So a question from Jonathan. So he says, how is the interface with local municipalities going? Is it even necessary to interface with local governments?
That's a great question. So with the partner schools, like we've actually also worked with education officers in local municipalities to ensure that the program can actually exponentially grow and be introduced in other schools. So it has been helpful to interact with them because they have the different teachers and different schools that we could possibly collaborate with and understand more about what they are actually doing. So we definitely have had conversations, and we have an education officer who we work closely with in Jamaica along with the partner schools.
Can I ask a follow-up to that, if that's okay? Thank you. By the way, thanks for a wonderful presentation. I loved it. Are there any barriers or restrictions that you need to navigate around, you know, in Jamaica because of this? Or I can't imagine that they would just give you, you know, scot-free access to the youth. There must be some things that you have to work with.
So what we do is we work with the principals directly from the schools. And so they actually determine if this is a program that they could accommodate, because a big part of it is the capacity of the teachers. It's hard for many of the teachers to help with the program. And so we vet our volunteers to come in and actually have the program on the school grounds, you know, from what the principals have said and working one-on-one with them. So yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so with that, Brittania, thank you so much. And I will add that, so one of the things that the fellows need to do is to share their logic models. They have to develop logic models. And so a lot of those, I think Niba's question about the additional like outcomes and outputs that one can extract from. So there's actually way more that they can showcase here than time allows. And that's the reason. So definitely do get in touch with them. They think they do have their logic models that really separate out the outcomes from their outputs, which I think is really, really important. So Brittania, thank you so much for that. And with that, I would like to welcome Ryan. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Pull this up. Okay. So my project is called Goldilocks Zone, and we are, once this loads, a music and animation studio helping STEM educators and communicators tap into the power of song and story. And we're also an LLC. So just a bit about me. I'm a film composer and songwriter by trade, and I'm also just really passionate about STEM and creative education. So this was kind of just a nice collision of things that I'm passionate about. The main problem that we are trying to address is that STEM educators and science communicators do not have enough resources to utilize the power of song and story. And this is particularly true in topics outside of the Common Core, so things like current events or new research, of which there's always much more every day. And then target audience is right there, the STEM educators and science communicators, and our sub-audience is kids through those educators. And so the solution to this is for songwriters and artists to bring their skill sets and backgrounds in the arts to create uniquely effective educational animated songs. And we think that we're the team to do that. So there's me, and this is Jessica. She's animator extraordinaire and just a really great producer. She's really great at keeping things moving. And she also designed that logo that was on the first slide. So the way that it works is we would first consult with a client to kind of address their needs and what they're looking to communicate. And we would probably bounce some ideas back and forth. We'd then get them a quote and a non-exclusive license, ideally. And then we get to creating. So these things usually take about 3 to 5 months when it's just the two of us working on them. Although the songs take me 3 to 4 weeks or so. So if we're able to find the funding to, reach out to more freelance animators, then theoretically we can create over a dozen in a year. And then with the permission of the client, we would want to promote this to different places such as film festivals, which, there's tons of kids festivals and science focused festivals, all sorts of great places to push this. And then we'd be looking to distribute to classrooms and individual educators, where we would have lyric sheets available on our website to download for free for interested teachers. So the reason that this works is because stories were humans' original method for conveying information, and music that for conveying emotion. So our brains have really evolved to kind of remember things that are deemed important via emotion and relevance to our lives. So in combining these things, you have a really powerful tool that you can apply really anything to, in this case, science education. And doing that is kind of how we differ in the landscape. So here are some companies that have already shown that song works really well, animated song. And then here are some companies that have already proven that an artistic and story-driven approach works really well. So we just try to synthesize those and get the best of both worlds. And yeah, that all banks on us, being able to do that successfully. So luckily we've had some success with that so far. So our first one was with NASA's Psyche mission, where we were tasked with basically just bringing the mission to kids and making it exciting. So I'll play just a quick snippet of this. The story covers how the asteroid came to be.
Following her orbit still as she would dance around, as she grew filled with joy through and through. Then one awful tragic day, some space debris flew in her way, struck her down to just a metal core. What was I going to be?
Yeah, so definitely check that out in full if you want on our website after this, if you want a good sense of where we kind of want to take them. And then this is principal investigator, Dr. Lindy Elkins Chantum, and she had some nice things to say about how it also brought together the team, the engineers, which wasn't necessarily our first intention, but it's nice to see that this can, have a ripple effect with different audiences as well as kids, as shown here. And here's some lyric sheet and sheet music that go with it. And then next, we worked with Dr. Lisa Kettemer to create Journey of Teresia, which, this has seen success in film festivals around the world, including in Australia and Norway and here in New York. And we're still getting accepted to a few more, hopefully. And then we worked with Paula Buchanan, where we are right now, to incentivize kids to keep their drains clear of fatbergs, which are masses of fat and oil that clog up the pipeline. So that's the mission with this one. And then funding and sustainability, I think keeping costs low early on will be really good. So, working with student animators will be, I think, a move early on, and then prices so that we can get sales, so that we can get a portfolio going, and then bring that to maybe venture capital, which I think could be a good move at this point, especially given the aftermath of the pandemic. All these digital educational content platforms are on the rise, and we can serve those platforms. So I think it's all the more reason to invest. And we're looking at getting a business manager for just that reason at the moment. So next steps would be to connect, reach out to people, get out there. So as we get sales and funding, the more funding we're able to get, the quicker and higher quality we'll be able to make these. And then we'll get to creating, of course, and then just pushing these out to everywhere we can and repeating that process. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. The floor is open for questions.
Niba.
Hey, love the idea, and I think you're definitely onto something really great. Couple points. I think I really love how you guys are kind of identifying this easy way that people take in science, and it's clearly proven. I'd encourage you to check out there's a podcast called singforscience.org. He's also a Science Sandbox awardee and does stuff that might be a little similar. And I think it would be helpful to kind of just have more connections in that space. I also would really encourage you to lean into the film festival showings that you mentioned. I think those will be really key for promotions and also for getting your next clients. And then as you kind of mentioned venture capital and getting more funding and things like that, in your presentation, I think you did a really great job of the visuals and the overall kind of look and aesthetic of it. And that's good because obviously that's what you guys are doing. But I'd encourage you to, especially in the beginning, just think about kind of what story you're trying to tell about how you came to this spot, what you brought to the table, how you personally are interested in this. Because that's something that especially when you're asking for funding is kind of the key moments that investors will always look for, what's the story here. And so you want to make sure that the story you're telling of all of this is also something really dramatic, or something that's personal, something about I noticed this, or perhaps this is where my skills met Jessica's, and kind of how you guys became a partnership. I think that could really help kind of strengthen your overall pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Appreciate that.
For sure.
I have a quick one, Ryan. So how long, what's the average length of these videos that you create?
So we shoot for between 3 and 5 minutes, 3 and 6 minutes. Yeah, but we're happy to, whatever suits the needs the most. So that's what we're trying to do.
And do you work with the, the PIs at the next stage where you try to disseminate, or do you kind of stop at the delivery of here's the product?
Well, I think with promotion, we'd want to push it as far as we can. It's going to depend on the client and what they're trying to do with the work, on if they want us to do that, I suppose. But yeah, I think it'd be great to just push it as far as we can for both education and advertising.
Great. Rose?
Hi, yeah, great presentation. Something that I had a question about, I might have completely missed this, but in your sales, I noticed that you have sheet music. Are you planning on potentially thinking about licensing this music to elementary schools and things like that for choir classrooms and things in that realm?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're thinking of doing that and just having it for free on our website to download, as kind of like a trickle down, if that's the right word, type situation.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, maybe in the future, if there's enough demand, we can get some kind of like subscription-based thing going.
Yeah, even if you came up with your own material and started doing some stuff.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
Jess?
Brian, this is super awesome. These videos are super cool. I have two questions. So one is this idea of scaling. It's just you and Jessica. How do you scale up to make more and more videos that are really still really, really high quality and not sacrifice that quality? And then the second question is, what are some metrics that you guys are thinking about in terms of measuring impact? Is it just, number of hits on a video? Is it things like someone from NASA giving you a really nice narrative? Kind of what are you thinking about in terms of accumulating that kind of like impact metric?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it will be video views, but also I think surveys, since it's kind of a subjective thing, like going to teachers, surveying teachers, and also any scientists involved and kids involved in those classrooms as well. Like if we can somehow reach them, then we can have some data points, to pitch this further and grow from there. And then your first question, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tricky at first without a lot of funding because we're going to have to keep our sales numbers pretty low. But yeah, I mean, I think if we can keep going and just keep advertising and working with student animators as much as we can in the freelance, we'll be able to keep up as we grow. Yeah.
Great. Ryan, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Okay, thanks for those wonderful questions. All right, so next up is Sqiniseko, and I have a video of her. So she is based in South Africa, and so we prepared this video just in case, just to make it easier to share here. Okay, so give me a second to locate the video. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sqiniseko Majola, and today I would like to talk to you about a project we have been working hard on. The project is STEM for Orphans South Africa. We are empowering orphans into STEM. So a bit about me, I have a BSc in biochemistry and microbiology. I love Christ, and I'm a South African living in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal province. So the problem that we identified was that South African high school orphaned children lack direct access to scientists and health practitioners, and they don't see how this work is relevant to their everyday lives, how it fits into their everyday lives. So the solution that we came up with was hosting live events at orphan centers where the local scientists and the health practitioners get to tell the orphaned students, the orphan children in high school about the work that they do. And they get to engage when it comes to STEM. So what's out there right now when it comes to science engagement looks like the Root of the Science podcast, which focuses on interviewing scientists about the work that they do, the Begisisa Center for Health Journalism, which focuses on getting health news out there, science, health-related news, health science-related news. Squisizos Viela, who's a well-known science communicator. The Air Waza, an organization which focuses on helping young adults and high school students engage with biomedical research. The Wish podcast from this, which focuses on creating health and sport content. What makes us different from all the initiatives that are out there that do science engagement is that we are exclusively focusing on orphans. We are targeting orphans with our STEM program. So in 2018, in the country, there were about 2.7 million orphans, which is a huge number. So we'll be measuring impact by doing pre and post surveys, looking at, are the children interested in pursuing STEM careers after the live events? Do they see themselves as people who can do science? Are they more aware about the different careers that are out there that are STEM related? And do they know how the science fits into their everyday lives or how it's relevant to their everyday lives? We'll also be tracking, when measuring impact, the number of children that are interested in participating, the number of orphan centers that are interested in hosting the live events, and the number of scientists and health practitioners that are interested in going to the center and talking about their work. So what we've done so far is that we've launched a site, that we have one orphanage that has decided to work with us, and we have 2 speakers that have agreed to speak at an event. So how we will be building our team by connecting with the local civic groups that are interested in entrepreneurship and university students that are interested in science communication or science engagement. Our funding plan looks like people who are interested in sponsoring our event, sponsoring an event, and also will be applying for grants. What we'll be doing next is looking for more speakers, connecting with more orphanages, and forming new partnerships. So thank you. Thank you to SAI for this fellowship opportunity and the great opportunity and the seed funding. And let's connect, let's chat. You can find us on our website, which is stemfororphans.sa.com, or you can email me at stemfororphans.sa@gmail.com. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am grateful and honored to have been able to share about the project that we are working on.
Okay, so Sqiniseko is with us. Yeah, clap away. Yes, so she can take any questions that you may have. Sqiniseko, are you live with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome, the floor is open.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi. I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your name again? Sqiniseko?
Sqiniseko.
Sqiniseko. Okay, thank you. I hope I didn't butcher that name. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That was wonderful. I really love that. I have not heard of anyone who has engaged orphans in any country in this way. And I think this is really, really special. I'm curious to know if you had thought about going beyond STEM. And I realize that the focus here is on STEM, but this could be my total ignorance, but I would imagine that orphans would love all types of education, not just STEM. And I'm curious to know if you have run into that issue, or is it just an issue of resources and limitations? I'm curious to know if you thought. Thank you.
Yes. I when I was speaking to one of the manager at the orphan center that we're working with, they told me that they have a career program for the orphans. So what was lacking was them learning more about STEM and understanding how the research would fit into how is it relevant to their everyday lives. So that's why I decided to focus specifically on STEM. But when I was speaking with them, they did say that they would like mentorship for the orphans. So I'll be thinking around like as I grow, if that would be possible for them.
Thank you.
Great. Ian?
Hi, how's it going? That was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I'm actually like, it's wonderful to see all these talks together and the relationships and potential cross-pollination as well. And I was curious from the standpoint of your project and program. You said, for example, looking for speakers. There's the time zone issue, and there's distance and other things. Are there opportunities to be able to build on digital resources? And for example, let's say someone I knew were to make videos or things like that were more accessible to the high school age. Is that something that would be relevant? Or are you looking for more of that in-person component? Thank you.
Yes, I'm looking for the in-person component, because because some of them might be under-resourced, so I have to be considerate of like the orphanages being under-resourced. But if I was to have a video of a scientist, then I would have to speak to the manager and discuss how we would go about that. But I'm hoping that it's a more in-person thing, so that the children can talk to the scientist and engage on a personal level.
Yeah, and this is something we've discussed quite a bit at Sqiniseko, right? The local challenges, and then comparing to like something like Skype a Scientist, right? And how can that be a plug in here, for example? Great. Any other questions? You saw the connection there, the email and the website, so do feel free to reach out to any of the speakers before. And Maria and Rosario, I just saw your questions in the chat. Please, hopefully you ping Ryan directly. Ryan, actually, if you see the questions, you can just message them back. Awesome, you already did it. Yes, that's wonderful. Great, Sqiniseko, thank you for that. And so we're moving from South Africa and all the way to the UK.
Yes.
Emily.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I've been running experiment all day. So I actually, my camera, when it's on, it kind of causes a little bit of a lag. So while I'm presenting, I'm just gonna turn it off, then I will turn it back on for questions. I hope that's okay. Just don't want it to be lagging. But okay, let's see. Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you all today. My project is called Let's Link Labs, with the aim to build lasting connections through neuroscience conferences. So first, who am I? My name is Emily Sherman. I graduated from Barnard College at Columbia University in 2020. And I worked in a neuroscience lab at Columbia for 3 years. And then in the fall of 2020, I started a neuroscience PhD here at Cambridge in the UK. So currently I'm a second-year PhD candidate in neuroscience, and I study olfaction and anxiety. And outside of the lab, I am passionate about scientific outreach and communication. Actually, for a year, I was the managing editor for the Journal of Stories in Science, which is a project out of SAI, so definitely go check that out after this. Where the aim of that was to humanize science through storytelling, and I truly believe that interpersonal connection between scientists and the public is very important. And so long-term, I plan to pursue a scientific career, and I want to do a postdoc. So what I'm about to talk about today is something that I can really see myself doing for the years to come. So what have I learned from almost 6 years in STEM across institutions and across countries? A problem that I have found is that the scientific community is quite insular, and departments within universities and institutions are also insular. And neuroscience itself is a very interdisciplinary field, as well as other fields. No scientific field exists in a vacuum, but interdisciplinary collaboration and exploration is difficult to achieve. I have spoken to many scientists from different levels, from undergrad to grad, postdocs, PIs, and they kind of all agree that the way that academia is set up, it is quite difficult to actually achieve successful interdisciplinary collaboration because of different barriers. But a great way to kind of connect with people and learn about what other people are doing is through conferences. Conferences occur and ideas are exchanged and contacts are made. And that's actually how I'm even involved with SAI today. I met Fanuel at a conference a few years ago, but attending conferences are very expensive and they are exclusive. So I was thinking about a way to kind of get around this, and if people are interested in neuroscience, but they're not necessarily studying neuroscience. So a solution that I came up with was that each semester, Let's Link Labs would fund 2 undergraduate STEM students from other fields not studying neuroscience to attend a neuroscience conference. So why? Why is this important? And why is this necessary? So as it stands, attending a neuroscience conference as a non-neuroscientist is very rare. I've been to many at this point, and I haven't met any non-neuroscientists. But I think this would be useful for both undergraduates who want to attend and also the scientific community at the conferences to get different perspectives and explain it to somebody who isn't necessarily an expert in the field. And students, especially undergraduate students, are not encouraged to go to conferences outside of their field of study, and they're not incentivized to do so. But Let's Link Labs gives students the opportunity to make interdisciplinary connections and incorporate their ideas into their own research fields. And so how am I going to evaluate this? So at first, students will be funded to attend a neuroscience conference. And then before the conference, during, and after the conference, students will write a blog post for the website, letslinklabs.com. I bought the domain. And so in addition to these blog posts, kind of about their expectations, what they're actually experiencing, and then their reflections, they'll tweet and post on social media about their experience, which then showcases this also to a public audience. So everybody can kind of engage with this and see this from like fresh eyes. And then also attendees will be encouraged to stay in touch with other attendees. So to create a community of all the people who do get funding through Let's Link Labs, will be encouraged to stay in contact and long term. And then surveys will be given out periodically to evaluate how these conferences have helped them. So we can then grow and learn from what people are saying. And so what have I done so far? I've given out surveys, and I found that interest in interdisciplinary collaboration is strong. I interviewed 20 undergraduate STEM students in other fields that aren't in neuroscience, and 90% of them said that they would attend a neuroscience conference if they were funded to do so. And on the other side of this, I interviewed 10 faculty members at Cambridge, and 70% of them said that they would take the time at a conference to talk to a student from another field and show them, how a day in their life works and explain their research. And amongst my own peers, 80% of PhD candidates said that they would take the opportunity to engage in an interdisciplinary collaboration, given the opportunity, and also if they had this opportunity as undergrads. So for a funding plan, for the first year, I aim to raise $10,000 for 1 year to kind of prove the concept and build interest. I chose this number because I calculated it probably on the high end would cost around $1,500 per student to go to a conference with travel and the actual conference fees and like staying there. And then I also have to build the website and maybe do a few advertisements. But then long term, I would want to raise additional funds from institutions and possibly individual labs that have grants, universities, and then other grant funding bodies to expand this program. And so my next steps first is just raising money and then building the website to encourage interdisciplinary conversation and showcase successful examples of people attending these conferences. And then I'm going to advertise the opportunity on the website, which is letslinklabs.com, on Twitter and Instagram and even TikTok, because that's honestly a great way to reach people, undergrads these days. And then also pitch this idea to actual conference organizers and university departments as well. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone in my cohort. It's been great to work with you. And thanks to Fanuel, obviously, SAI, Garlavine. And yeah, here's my email if you have any questions. There's my Twitter if that's a better way to connect. So yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for that. You're right on time there. So the floor is open. Okay, I'm looking for hands, or if you want to shout out, you can go ahead. Ian.
That was great. I really like that. It appeals to me a lot as a practicing cell biologist, but not a neuroscientist. I think that what you said at the end, I really responded to, which is it strikes me that the existing Society for Neuroscience, some of the other major meetings probably already have initiatives or interests along these ways. And there might be a way to interface with that well, that they're probably looking for somebody who has that kind of motivation, desire, and support. And sometimes the societies can be very crusty, but that ability to sort of have that grassroots advertisement and energy and Twitter capacity is a strong way. And I also agree that the neuroscience departments would be attractive. That is not my field, and yet there's lots of people that I know there. If you're ever looking for some connections in terms of places to start, please write me. My last name is Cheeseman, so it's not that hard to find, but nice job.
Thank you. I definitely will be in touch. Thanks.
Jonathan?
Emily, fantastic work. This, and I wrote in the chat that I think it's so good, you're going to get bombarded. So I'm a clinical anatomist, but I was trained in neuroscience. And so I've been to Society for Neuroscience many times. And especially in today's socio-political world, there's a very keen interest on helping underrepresented minorities go to these conferences. So my first question is how are you going to prevent this program from actually helping people that you actually don't intend to help, like the ones who actually have the resources? So if I'm a clinical anatomist, I'm not a neuroscientist technically, but maybe I have resources to go to a neuroscience conference, but I'm going to go into this program and try to use these resources. That's question number one. Question number two, have you thought about narrowing your demographic in such a way that only particular people qualify, not with the intention of being exclusive, but to make sure that you have a very targeted audience for who you want to go to these conferences? And then, I don't know if you're keeping track of all this, and sorry, the cognitive overload might be a little high, but number three, I will tell you that this is such a great idea because non-neuroscience faculty members have a ridiculously hard time getting their undergraduate students to present their work at a scientific meeting because of costs. And so as a member on a medical school admissions committee, this is one of the things that I'm constantly trying to tell applicants, that they need to convince their PIs that they have to go to a meeting. In this case, we're talking about neuroscience, but the funding isn't there. So maybe you could actually leverage matching funds in some way to be able to reach more people with the same amount of money. So, okay. So anyway, thoughts on those two questions?
Well, yeah. Thank you so much.
So Emily, Jonathan had more of a comment on the last one.
Yeah, those two questions, right?
The one that Niba also seconding is really about narrowing your demographics. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, first, thank you so much. Your last point, I totally agree with. I think that's a great idea. And yeah, I think that your first two questions really go hand in hand as well. I think, so how will I narrow it down? I do want to focus on like underrepresented minorities. So when I advertise this, that's what I'm going to say. And, so I'll focus on that when I actually see the applications. Obviously, I guess I can't really say like, let me see your tax returns or something like that. But I hope that people will be honest about it, especially at first when I don't have as much money. And if I'm hopefully able to raise more in the future, then maybe I can expand it a bit. But at first, I'm definitely going to just focus on advertising it and emphasizing that this is for underrepresented minorities in STEM.
Okay, cool. Jess?
Hey, nice job, Emily. I echo, Maria just put in a comment in the chat too about that conferences can be very intimidating. And so just attending a conference doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get something out of it if you have no network and are not connected. So I echo her question. But my questions, I had two questions. So one is actually like, it's not totally clear to me what the goal is. Is it that, is the intention that you want people to learn neuroscience, or that you want non-neuroscientists to learn neuroscience, or that you want people to gain neuroscience skills so that they teach, other people in society or write a blog post or something? So I think narrowing that down, because right now it sounds very like open-ended to me, and it may be intentionally like that, but I think it's hard for me to know like exactly what the goals are for people to get out of the program. And then the second question I have is sort of, your thoughts on that. This is actually kind of a crowded space, right? So a lot of I am a neuroscientist, but a lot of conferences actually already have stipends for people who have trouble attending at the undergrad level, med student, postdoc, whatever, at all levels. And then actually a lot of conferences are still virtual. And so sometimes that may decrease the barrier a little bit for attendance. And then sort of this idea that in place of conferences, a lot of groups have been doing discussions on Twitter or on Reddit, and those seem to be perhaps more accessible to undergrads without creating any additional costs. I'm just wondering if you thought about like kind of the other things going on in this space.
Yeah, of course. So I guess to answer your first question for the main goal, I really want to focus on, so it's called like Let's Link Labs, because I believe that throughout different disciplines in science, whether you're a neuroscientist or a biologist or even a physicist, there are similarities and links between how we approach, the scientific method and think about questions. I really see science as a creative process, and I think that people, going into STEM as a field would truly benefit in terms of coming into your own as a scientist, or deciding if you want to go to grad school by understanding the scientific process more broadly and not just within confines of like your subject. And so I guess the main goal is really to kind of form interpersonal connections and bring back, what it really means to be a scientist to a broader field. And it is a bit open-ended, because I do think that there are so many different opportunities that can come out of going to a conference. Like, for instance, I went to this one in Boston in 2019, and that's how I learned about SAI. So, there's tons of different things that can happen for these students. I'm sorry, so your other point was about, so virtual and kind of mitigating these costs. So yeah, I think though, because I've been to a bunch of virtual conferences this past year, there are still fees. So, if it's bad with COVID or people don't want to travel, I still think that you still need funding to, I guess, kind of attend these conferences. And when looking into funding that conferences have to give out to people, because I've applied to a lot of these, I haven't seen any where you can just apply because you just want to go. Like, I've always had to submit an abstract, a poster. So I think it's less open to kind of like the public in a sense. I think when conferences are looking to fund undergrads to go, it is really to present something. I think it's rare to just kind of attend. But yeah, so that's where this comes in. And then I guess.
Sorry. I just want to jump in there a little bit, because one of the things you might want to think about as well is saying that maybe we can have a member of the public, right, going to these conferences, because you never see that, right? I've gone to these enough, right? That could be an avenue there as well. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I think there's a lot of interest. Sam, do you have a quick question? Any chance? Okay, Sam, shoot.
Yes, it should be relatively quick. So I noticed even from the name of your project that it's lab to lab. Like it seems to be focused on lab sciences, but you mentioned entirety of STEM earlier. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts about reaching out past the laboratory sciences to some of the other STEM fields, such as mathematics, which does function on a different basis with different methods, but still could be even more powerful for cross-pollinating ideas.
Of course, yeah, no, that's definitely my goal. I just mentioned that out loud just because those are the two that just popped into my mind. But it's definitely for all STEM, and so that's at first. But then it would be great to have somebody studying English or history or something like down the line. But for now, it's just to narrow it down, create more of a narrow focus. It's mostly just for STEM, so that definitely includes math as well.
Awesome. Emily, clearly a lot of interest here. Okay, there's something there. So just keep digging in. And so with that, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Kayleen, has been waiting. So Kayleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fanuel. Share. Okay. So imagine you are trying to get healthier and eat healthier for breakfast. Do you think eggs are healthy, right? Or did I read maybe they're unhealthy? So you spend 5 minutes Googling and you end up with something like this. Whoa, eggs are healthy, eggs are dangerous. They're somewhere in between. We don't know enough about eggs to answer the question. This is overwhelming and a little bit frustrating. Why does it seem like science is not giving us or can't give us a straightforward answer to a fairly straightforward question? That's an issue. I'm Kayleen Schreiber. I have a PhD in neuroscience. On the left is me putting electrodes on my future husband's brain to measure his brain activity. But after I finished my PhD, I focused my career on visual science communication. So I create animations and data visualizations to communicate science topics to a wide variety of audiences. And over the years, I've noticed that people in my circles, even my friends and some of my family, have a really different sense of what science is than I did. So for me, I fell in love with science because it's a iterative process of questioning and testing and knowledge that builds up and improves over time. But the people around me, they were describing science as a collection of facts or statements that scientists tell them that they feel they're supposed to just kind of take at face value and believe without questioning. But then they notice that science, those statements get updated and even reversed sometimes over time. And then they're supposed to just still believe them without questioning. And this gets frustrating and overwhelming. And it leads a lot of communities to stop using legitimate science information for their daily decisions, especially regarding health. So I believe the solution is to go back to what I fell in love with about science, which is this connected process of developing information over time. So what if you could see all of the research on a given specific topic in one visual at one time? This would show much needed context, how science builds over time, and get away from some of these flip-flopping headlines. So I'd like to introduce Science Trendline. It's a collection of interactive data visualizations focusing on showing all of the research on a given topic to highlight the process and context of science. So here's an example visualization. Each shape or data point is one published research study on this specific topic. The triangles show animal studies and the circles show human studies. The height, or how high or how low each data point is on the graph, shows the strength of evidence for that specific study. So the strength of evidence calculation is a combination of 5 different metrics to try to show how much stock we can put into the result of each study individually. So if you see a lot of data points hovering around the center line, that means that there's not a lot of studies with strong evidence one way or the other, and we need more research to draw a strong conclusion, like in this example. There's 2 shapes for each data point. The blue size shows how many times the research article has been cited by other researchers, and the gray size shows how popular the study was in the news and social media. So you can kind of compare those two. Some filters allow the user to focus in on specific aspects that they want to look at. And this is especially important for research questions that have a lot more work that's been done over time. And if you hover over one data point, you get more information about that study. So a description, summary of the results, limitations, conflicts of interest, and a link to the paper itself. Science Trendline is targeted towards science journalists and communicators to make it easier for them to include context and the process of science instead of highlighting just individual results that change or reverse over time. So it focuses toward the true benefit of science, which is the incremental discoveries that connect and build on each other. So you might be thinking there's a lot of communicators and groups that create excellent science summaries already, and there are, but these summaries require the audience to trust the expert or group that's creating the summaries because they don't show all of the research and they choose which research to highlight. So a lot of times I hear things like, well, that's just what that scientist believes, or that group is biased because they get funding from this source or something like that. So that's what sets Science Trendline apart. It allows for true transparency, showing all the research on a given topic, and allows the user to see for themselves how it all fits together and what the trend is. So to analyze the usefulness of our tool, we will consistently communicate with our target audience and ask for feedback to try to iterate and improve Science Trendline and make it as useful as possible. And we'll also use website analytics to study how visitors are using the tool, where they spend time on the website, how long they stay, and whether they return. So our vision for Science Trendline is that science communicators and journalists will see the value in this tool and use it to incorporate more context and the process of science into reporting and publishing. And long-term, we'd like to see this type of visual scientific context become the norm and even required for scientific reporting, so that we can get away from the flip-flopping headlines and highlight the beauty of the scientific process. To be sustainable, we will leverage multiple funding sources. We can create paid custom visualizations for companies and researchers, apply for grants, and look for investors. So far I've created the first interactive visualization. We have a launched website, and I've gotten feedback from a network of possible stakeholders. And the next steps are to grow the team of scientists, editors, and developers to create more visualizations on different topics and secure more funding. So I'd like to thank SAI. I don't think this tool would have gotten off the ground without this fellows program, and especially Rose and Panuel for their expertise and mentorship and encouragement of the whole cohort of fellows. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time, and I'd like to take any questions at this point.
My quiet clap there, Kayleen. Wonderful presentation. The floor is open. Let me check here. Rosario.
Hello, I'm trying to turn on my camera. Here we go. Hi, that was really interesting. This is a really cool idea. I think it really helps to get the information out there. It seems like a really, at least I imagine it's a really time-intensive process to just build everything you need to actually, get the information that you need to build this type of product. So I'm curious how you plan to budget for that, and really kind of what type of effort you had to put into this to create this resource.
Yeah, that's a great question. I started out with one that was a little bit smaller, so it was so that I could do it. But scaling up, I think one idea that we have is to crowdsource the literature review stage. So we will reach out to scientists, and people have been studying these types of questions already, and so we can start with databases based on information and resources that scientists already have. But then we will need a group of editors to start with those lit reviews and basically put everything into the database. But some of the information will be automatically scraped online as well. So we can get the number of citations, the journal impact factor, and the altmetric score, so how popular it was in news and social media. We can get those automatically. So there will be a hands-on process, but then some of it will be automated, and yeah, it'll definitely take a team to do some of the bigger questions.
So one follow-up question, because I see a lot of people have questions, seeing a lot of hands there. Just one follow-up question is, I know that a lot of the things that ends up in the news are really often based on number of citations from these bigger impact journals, and that certain groups of people are more likely to get their work into these journals and to get spotlighted in this way. So have you thought about a way that you can get around that to make sure that you are equitably responding to the research and the science?
Yeah, I think that's one of the sort of benefits of this structure, because the only place that you see number of citations is in that blue size, but it doesn't, that's not part of the strength of evidence calculation. So you'll see all the research, whether they're popular in certain circles or not popular. And I think the size comparison of number of citations versus how popular it was in social media is an interesting thing to take into account, to say, oh, you know, scientists thought this was important, but it didn't get picked up in the news, or vice versa. But it's just one aspect of it. So the fact that we include all of the papers, regardless of how popular they were, I think that kind of helps with that.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to our live stream audience as well. Sorry for neglecting you. Tristan and Sergio kind of have a follow-on questions with each other. Tristan's asking, have you considered incorporating crowdfunding of information into the platform? And Sergio followed up saying crowdsourcing lit reviews like Wikipedia or verified academics. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that is going to be a big part. I see it as reaching out to scientists or PhD students in the field who have already curated a lot of these lit reviews, and we still need a person to kind of, you know, make sure that they all are relevant to the question that we're asking and input the data. But definitely, I think that's going to be a big important factor to kind of speed up this process.
Great. Ian?
I love that combination of visualization and data curation. I'm curious though how you're going to keep it from being politicized. You know, so you didn't mention something like COVID-19 or many other topics, climate change, that sort of have very different takes. Even your egg example was beautiful, but if you think about like the egg producers getting involved or something like that, how do you avoid the politicization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this whole idea kind of came about with me seeing those, family members versus my science community, and just how differently they see questions like this. And obviously I didn't start with something like, do vaccines cause autism or something like that. But I think those are like questions that I really want to show visualization for. And I think this idea of showing all of the research helps with that a little bit, because one of the things that I see a lot on sort of alternative sites or people that are skeptical of mainstream science is, well, they find these studies that are of very questionable quality, and they say, well, they're, the scientists aren't looking at these studies, or they won't tell you about these, or, look at how many studies I found on PubMed, but they're like from these crazy journals. And so I think including all of them on there, but with a strength of evidence calculation, kind of allows the audience to say, okay, we're not hiding anything from you. We're not like dismissing those pieces that you have found. We're just saying that's not going to influence the overall trend because the quality is just not there. Makes sense.
Awesome. So comments there. Awesome tool, Tannia from feedback, and Tannia is mentioning this to you, Kayleen. A lot of questions. I think please do email Kayleen directly, and all other presenters as well. And for those of you watching this later, especially funders, definitely get in touch with these early stage founders that are really looking to build something cool, and they need some more support, because that's one of the things that we really focus heavily on. Kayleen, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so last but not least, Tannia. So if you're still here watching this, yay, because I do have a special announcement after Tanya's presentation. Okay, Tannia, the floor is yours.
Can you see my screen okay?
Indeed, yes.
Awesome. And if I'm clicking and it's not clicking, just let me know, because I can't see the screen at all.
Sure thing.
Awesome. Well, Latinx and BME is an international community-powered online platform helping Latinx college students in biomedical engineering counter feelings of isolation and exclusion and foster their inclusion and success within the broader biomedical engineering community. My name is Tannia Rodriguez, and at the age of 9, I had the privilege to immigrate to the United States. And as a result, I was able to pursue and complete degrees in biomedical engineering in the United States. But my path was not always easy. It actually did not look like this straight line at all. I actually struggled a lot along the way and had many ups and downs due to limited resources and a lack of mentorship opportunities for minority students like myself. It wasn't until 2019 when I met Brittania Moodie, and I finally found the community for me, Latinx and BME. And I've made it my personal mission to propel our organization forward and develop sustainable initiatives for years to come. So Latinx individuals at all levels struggle to find senior and peer mentors that represent them and often lack access to supportive communities. In 2018, the Engineering by the Numbers report from the American Society of Engineering Education reported that approximately 11% of bachelor's degrees and 6% of doctoral degrees in all of engineering fields were awarded to Latinx students. That's compared to the general population in the United States of about 19%. Furthermore, in 2016, it was reported that fewer than 600 tenure and tenure-track Latinx engineering faculty out of the over 27,000 engineering faculty across the country are Latinx, and 2.3% of Latinx tenure-track faculty are specifically in biomedical engineering. As a result, in 2019, Latinx and BME was founded, and it runs fully remotely, which allows us to serve a wide and diverse group of members in various locations and also various time zones. Our approach focuses on 3 pillars to bridge the gap of Latinx representation in BME, including professional development, mentorship, as well as wellness. Some of our programming includes writing groups, technical workshops, networking opportunities, one-on-one chats, Q&A panels, as well as just a focus on overall mental health well-being with social mixers, in-person events, as well as cafecito hours where we just sit down, relax for an hour and have coffee and chat. And all of these pillars also have their own respective channels on our Slack. So we were able to leverage digital platforms to build our community. We currently use Slack, which allows us to centralize information in channels focused on specific topics, but we also have a very large presence on Twitter. And on Twitter, we're able to highlight the successes of all of our members to show our community that our members are accomplishing amazing things, and also to connect our members with opportunities that maybe are outside of our group, but might be from some of our partners. There are various organizations and groups on Twitter, fully on Slack, and even national organizations such as SACNAS and SHIP doing similar work. So what sets us apart? We are fully biomedical engineering focused. We are remote first, which allows us to have a broad international reach, and it helps us support many Latin American countries in South America. We also work on various platforms, Slack, Twitter. We're developing our website and we'll be launching our monthly newsletter. And we also really focus on student wellness, especially in academia. We're currently in progress. We're getting 501c3 status, which will allow us to apply for further grants and funding. And once those funding opportunities are available, we're excited to launch an internship program. And within that program, we'll be able to use some of our grant funding money to provide opportunities for minority students, DACA-mentored students who might not have had those opportunities otherwise. So in order to assess knowledge, interest, and career development within our members, we'll be doing pre and post workshop surveys. And we'll also have a yearly member survey. And we don't only want to know how many members we have total, we want to ensure that we are retaining members and our members are getting out of our program what they wanted to get out to begin with. So this will help us align the goals for Latinx and BME and also have an accurate representation of our member demographic. We also are incorporating quarterly reports. And with this, we'll be able to assess demographics at each individual event. And that way we know what events are targeted towards what audience, because the needs of a first-year graduate biomedical engineering student might be much different than that of a 4th or 5th year student. And we'll be using these reports as we continue to apply for grant funding and submit reports to our current funders. We're also incorporating a yearly member retreat where we're going to discuss the findings from our surveys and also iterate and everything we learn along the year and pass that information on to the new executive board. So this past year, we were able to develop our first executive board composed of 6 team members. Latinx and BME is led by 2 awesome advisors, Ana Maria Porras and Brittania Moodie, who were the co-founders back in 2019. And we're very excited that we continue to have their support. And our community continues to grow since 2019. We currently have over 330 Slack members. Back in August of 2020, that number was just 165, so we've more than doubled our membership. We have over 1,500 Twitter followers. That includes some of our members and also our allies. And we've been able to host monthly events for our members, fulfilling one of our organization pillars. And we want to be able to increase the number of monthly events as we move forward. Currently, most of our membership includes graduate students. So as of now, we'll be tailoring most of our events to focus on their needs. Here are some photos from our in-person events at conferences and some of our virtual events over Zoom. And in terms of funding model, we want to fund our initiatives in 3 ways. First, partnerships such as with SAI, universities, professional organizations, and industry. Also apply for grants once we have our 501c3 status that focus on educational gains, diversity, and also community involvement. And we recently developed swag. We have mugs and lanyards. We will be hosting wine tasting events. And once we have 501c3 status, donations will be easier to come to us. In terms of next steps, we'll continue to refine our survey and website to identify the best means of communication for our members. We're currently in the process of applying for the BMES Diversity Award, which would allow us to secure additional funding and gain momentum as we apply for more funding in the future. We're working on obtaining 501c3 status, which will expand our funding opportunities tremendously. And we'll continue to assess our program evaluation with our quarterly reports and iterate and improve on previous year's efforts, because we don't want future students to have to struggle the way that we did or like I did. I want to say thanks to my mentor, Jasmine, first, for being an amazing person and being extremely encouraging. Daniel, you've been awesome this past few weeks. Every week you just have so much energy, and it's been great to be a part of this team. The whole SAI team, you guys have been putting in a lot of work, and it's been great to just hear through the weeks how SAI as a whole has been expanding. And of course, Ana Maria Porras and Brian Aguado for all of their work with Latinx and BME and our whole Latinx and BME board. So if you want to give us a follow on Twitter, you can find us at Latinx and BME, and there you can find an invite to our Slack group. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Wonderful, Tannia. That was great. If you could leave your last slide up for like 1 minute or so for people to take those contents. So, questions, guys. Questions. Throw them away. So Tannia, I'll do a quick. Yeah, that's great. I'll do a quick one. Can you tell us about one key outcome that you really care about that you will be tracking?
Yeah, one of the key outcomes that we care about for our members specifically is knowledge. And that's why we're hosting professional development workshops, which can include data visualization, writing workshops, and so on. So with the pre and post survey workshops, we'll be able to assess how they felt in terms of knowledge and awareness of what they needed to be able to write, let's say, grants, papers, and so on. And after our workshop, see how they were able to learn those tools from whoever the speaker was or the session leader that day.
Yeah, I think it's interesting given the diversity. I love that pie chart at the end there that you had. You should definitely put that actually way up front to telling about the community that is there. Other questions? Any partnerships, Tannia, that you've developed? You may have mentioned this already, but who have you partnered with or wanting to partner with beyond like SAI and so forth?
Yeah, so Dr. Ana Maria Porras works at FIU, and this past year we had a symposium with them. It was a Latinx and BME symposium that the university was able to help us put together. So as of now, our partners are university sponsors, but we'd like to branch out to the industry sponsors just because we know they have a lot of money that they're willing to spare, especially for initiatives like this. And ultimately, we know that not every single biomedical engineer will stay in academia, and we want to make sure we have industry connections for our members that go beyond just knowing someone at X industry.
Yeah, and this question, I think most of the fellow other presenters have escaped this question. So here we go. What do you mean? What is costing money in your model right now that you need funding for?
Yeah, so as of now, we're very lucky that we're not really spending any money because everything we're doing has been remotely. Zoom is free. Fortunately, all of our members are either at a university or we have someone on the board who has a university Zoom, so that's free. But as we move forward, we would like to expand our reach for our students. As I want to say, it was not Kayleen, as we were mentioning, like funding for conferences is very scarce. So being able to provide that for our students, in addition to what they might get from universities, would be a way to use our funding. I think I wrote in the comments, like sometimes you get a $300 stipend for a conference, but just registration itself can be like $400. And then that doesn't take into account the flight, lodging, food, transportation within the city, and so on. So a lot of times just going to conferences and having these professional experiences are impossible opportunities for our members. Even if they apply, get a grant, get a stipend of some sort, it's still not a possibility.
Yeah, that's a good just for, and for those of you watching this later, for the fellows thinking through what those costs were related, and time, I think, is another one that people don't think about, that your time spending doing these things can definitely, funders who are watching, right, to pay attention to that. Tannia, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Okay, so if you've stuck around until this time, you're probably waiting. What is this special announcement that Fenwal has? I think the fellows know what it is, but I wanted to share with you all so that everybody can see it. So first thing is first, please do give us your feedback. I put the link in the chat, and also there's a QR code. If you want to just use your phone, scan away, put the little camera on there, you'll get to the link. And again, the link is in the chat as well. Also, for those who are watching online, it's in the chat box there. So with that, I can't believe we're here. Applications for Cohort 8 are going to be released in May. That's the special announcement as well. So do check us out. We're really excited to be able to do this. We can't do this without funding. It's really hard. Not that we can't do it, but it's really hard to do so without. And so we are really excited to be able to do this. It will be launching in the fall. So the applications will be opening up in May throughout early summer, and then we'll be hopefully getting another cohort of fellows that are starting up in the fall. And another bonus to that, for the first time, we'll be welcoming all the Cohort 7 fellows as junior residents to SAIs, which is super exciting. What you saw today is really kind of the launching platform, right? And the hard work now begins to continue to execute on those plans and iterate. That's the key here. You always got to iterate and improve. So welcome to the new junior residents. Super excited always to have new residents at SAI. And so with that, I do want to welcome a new member to our family, the Richard Bloomsbury Foundation. So Cohort 8, the only way we're able to do this is because of this new member that will be able to fund 6 seats for the next batch. And we're really excited to think through about what's going to be different in the next batch. We're always iterating. As I just cannot believe it, we're going to be in the 8th version of this. Each version is slightly different. We tweak it to change some things. And so we're really excited to bring in some new faces. Corey, new program manager, and his ideas about how to edit and improve on this. And so we're going to be actively looking again, thinking about Cohort 9 and 10. I mean, hopefully to Cohort 100 one day. So we shall see. And with that, this concludes our 7th pitch day. I look forward to seeing you in the future. We do have a special pitch day in June for our interns. They'll be pitching their research proposals. That information will be posted shortly in the website. So thank you so much for sticking around till the end, and hopefully wishing you all a great week. Thanks, everybody.